as always, because it's us on Live Before Lock. Just waiting to make sure we've got the good stuff coming. There it is, stream bad, which the next time I hit refresh, it will be stream good, and we're live. So, Chris,
Oh,
it's your show. Take her away.
hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock show. I'm hoping we are on the right URL because I'm not seeing us in the right window, but hopefully there we go. There we go. All right, now we're going. I was still getting the deeper dive, which as much as I love those guys, it's not helpful to see their video while we're trying to do a video. But we are going here. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always by my pal Emac, your old pal as well. How are you doing, Emac, Mr. Home Run King over there?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been all about the hockey for me the last couple days. By the way, turned my shout out to Jay Kari. Turned my $40 or what did I play? Played $60 last night. Turned it into 185. The night before I had 40. I turned it into 60. So that's pretty awesome. And it's all showdowns and tiers because I can't build classic lineups worth a damn, apparently, in playoff hockey. So I'll take it. I found my niche, as Jake says.
Hey, look, you're selecting contests correctly. That's what we advocate for at Awesemo.com. And that is something, actually, if you haven't read it yet, I'm going to drop the link in there because somebody actually asked me on the Four Corners video I do. And I was doing them for basketball. Obviously, now it's MLB season, and there are still four corners in baseball. So we're doing that. But check out this contest because there was a guy in there who was claimed to be, at least, I hope it's actually true. If it's not, what a jerk. But a 74-year-old Marine who's trying to figure out how to do lineups. And I was like, I gave him like the longest answer I've probably given in a YouTube comment reply where I'm like, hey, like check this article out, like try to do that. But one thing which the boss man, Alex Baker, who's in the chat right now, would advocate for is going to low stakes, maxing out as much as you can at lower stakes. You're going against less sharp competition. And also you're evening the field if you're in the same amount of entries as everybody else in the tournament. Those are two things you would advocate for. And if you are a 74-year-old Marine watching this right now, you should also use the promo code Live Before Lock to get half off your first month. I guess we should probably offer a better discount for 74-year-old Marines. You
I'll
think,
tell
Emac?
you what, if he's watching, we'll arrange for him to get his first month free. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So go check that now at Awesemo.com, whether you're a Marine or not. And if you are a Marine of 74 years or more, feel free to email us at support@Awesemo.com to get hooked up. But yeah, just play smart. I think that's generally the wise thing to do. Emac, we got a bunch of stuff going on today. We've got 13 games in MLB. What are you getting the most so far? I guess let's talk about what your favorite spot is overall, and we'll kind of go from there. You give me your favorite spot, I'll give you mine. We'll kind of go back and forth.
Sure. So just a reminder for those of you playing on FanDuel, their main slate starts at 6:35. We've got that Boston and the Yankees game, along with the I think it's Tigers and Pirates. So that one is not part of the other slates. It's just a turbo slate, but FanDuel is going early. A reminder that the Seattle, Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati are all doing this Monday through Thursday weekday games until the end of May. They're doing early 6 o'clock hour starts. It's because one, weather's a little better, and two, it's family friendly. So just throwing that out there. So be cognizant of that. This is the first time I've seen FanDuel reach forward and pull those games in. So outside of that, everybody else is starting off the main one. I love picking on Jaime Barria. There's one issue. Not enough righties in the lineup for me to go to. He's had some pretty severe reverse splits. Enough that even though it's not much of a track record at all, it's like there's gotta be, he must have a release point or the way he shows the ball or something. He just is getting tattooed by righties, but there's a lot more lefties there in that Texas lineup. So that one is I'm spreading out my ownership on a variety of things here. For pitching, I'm really like Strasburg. I really like Glasnow, and then I'm accepting a boatload of SP2s. I don't think I'm going to go over 30 or 35% on Strasburg or Glasnow. I keep dialing back my numbers because like every time I'm spending on pitching, I'm sorely disappointed. Last night it was Nola and was it Syndergaard? Bauer was good, but I paid up for three guys, and one of them was good, and the others were no bueno. So that's just making me remember that if you can find SP2 type guys, put in two of them, and have a decent chance at them combining for a dozen strikeouts and a dozen innings, you're going to be fine. and you hope your bats carry the day, because all it takes is you grabbing onto that 1-2 home run guy if it happens, and that's worth a stellar outing from an ace pitcher on most scoring sites. Who was Yelich last night?
Yelich, yes,
Props
yeah,
to
52 points yesterday, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have him on very many teams, but 3 home runs, 7 RBI, pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, that was a heck of a day. And also, I mentioned this in the Four Corners video earlier, but there was a family who bet their child if Yelich hits a home run, that he would get a puppy. So I assume they now have to get 3 puppies, because that's just the contract that they signed with their child. He's going that nuts, but we did talk about that spot. Well, I guess I talked about that spot, and I'm sure you mentioned it in whatever content you were doing yesterday, Mac. But spot versus Dakota Hudson, about as good as it gets. Today, not quite as good for the Brewers, but Yelich just on a tear to start the year. That's really hard to avoid.
Yeah, our analysis, or I led the analysis with Jake, and I said Dakota Hudson, that's all we're talking about. And go on to the next guy. He is not going to be long for the majors, is my guess, unless he comes in as some sort of long reliever that gets to start in mop-up duty one way or the other, every 10 days. So.
Yep. So yeah, I'm with you on the pitchers there, Strasburg and Glasnow. I think, on DraftKings, I always get in this trap where I end up wanting to pay down a little bit more at pitcher to afford the stacks I want. The Dodgers stack going versus Tyler Mahle, I like quite a bit. Even some of the other middle of the order stacks, or the middle, I would say like middle tier stacks, like the Rays stack, I like quite a bit as well, but got to pay $5K for Austin Meadows if you want to get in there. And he's really, I think, the best part of that stack, at least in terms of performance so far this year. So it's tough to get to Glasnow and Strasburg. And I think it's actually made me feel a little bit better. But Shane Bieber, I'm surprised he's not getting a little more love, given the fact that he's just been good this year and he's been good as chalk. And now, for some reason, today people are like, "Nah, I don't think I want that guy," even though he's got a pretty good run total supporting him. 3.9 could be worse, could be better, but I'm okay with that spot. So I actually went away from Glasnow and Strasburg more than I thought I would initially. And that scares me a little bit, because when your hands or your fates and Shane Bieber, also some José Quintana, I have a good amount of.
Yep.
Trying to think who else that feels risky, I have a good amount of. But Mike Minor, I landed on a decent amount. Like, it doesn't feel great, and it might be wise just to go with the chalk and go with Strasburg and Glasnow.
Yeah, the one. So hitting a couple of those guys, really like Bieber tonight. It's more about going against the Mariners. Yes, they're leading the league still in runs per game, but they're being reeled into the pack. Everybody was literally on a hot streak. It's a lineup with a lot of tough outs in it, but I mean, come on, is Domingo Santana really going to average an RBI for each hit that he gets this season? Probably not. Is Jay Bruce found the fountain of youth? Maybe, but he's, how long is he going to keep this up every single day? Edwin Encarnacion, I mean, these are nice, good veteran hitters, but they're on the downside of their career. So, Malik Smith, not a lot of power. Excellent base runner. A lot of speed there with him. Mitch Haniger, very, very solid. Arguably, probably between him and just Santana are kind of like, wow, I guess this is going to be the building blocks for the Mariners. So I like Bieber there at 8,600. I particularly like it because Seattle just has a 3.9 implied run total. There is a slight chance of rain there tonight. Not to worry, they've got the retractable roof. It is not an enclosed stadium. I keep saying this because like every week I hear somebody think that it's an enclosed stadium. It's literally a carport. It just covers it. Does nothing for the wind. Does nothing for the cold temperatures. But it's 54 degrees there at first pitch. That's not exactly exciting. So the game's going to go off, but it's not let's just say the marine layer is in play. And that's the cooler air that comes in. Particularly, you see it on the West Coast. And for the coastal cities, Oakland a little bit, but yes to Seattle, yes to San Francisco in particular, because they're playing right by the water. Like you can, like San Francisco is on the water. God, they've changed the names of both these parks. Oracle Park and T-Mobile Park. T-Mobile Park, you can hit a golf shot and land it in Puget Sound. So it's not like it's that far away from the water there as well. So temperatures tend to get cooler a little quicker, and that makes for some better or less than ideal hitting conditions. Just a little bit of run suppression. And this is baked into the totals and all of that. But it's just a reminder, you get these warning track outs that on a nice day, if it was going to be 80 degrees in either park, which is not hot, it's warm for those guys, but those would be home runs. So it's just a reminder that it's just enough to hang on there. So I like them. The other guy I like is Collin McHugh. A little bit. Do we go game by game, or we just kind of want to hit stuff and do
No,
questions?
let's just skip around because I think
Okay.
13 games and the deeper dive guys just went game by game as well.
Yeah. No, that's good. Jake and I did game by game, but there weren't as many yesterday, so I didn't know. But let's hit a few highlights. We're still waiting on like 4 lineups. We'll start doing some crunches and see where we're at. And then no, I haven't forgotten. I haven't chosen my home run guy yet, but I know pressure's on me here.
It is. Yeah, EMAC. So EMAC right now, let me just pull it up real fast because it is noteworthy that you've been on this tear. EMAC has the same amount as home run picks correct as I do to start the year, but he's done it in less at bats. So EMAC, a high efficiency guy so far. 3 out of 5 for EMAC, 3 out of 10 for me, 0 for 9 for Jake, and 1 for 8 for Josh. So EMAC, if you're going to take anything to the bank today, it's probably going to be whatever EMAC's home run pick, right? EMAC, everybody's just follow you all the way, tail you.
Thank you. Are you trying to give me the mush here?
Maybe. I don't know. Hard to say, man.
Oh, I don't think it's hard to say. That felt an awful lot like it. No, I don't know where I'm going to go yet today, so this will be a fun one. I went with Puig yesterday, and I said he already had his bat flip planned out. He did a tame bat flip. He just kind of tossed it. It wasn't the Bryce Harper, I'm going to flip this to the moon. Screw you, for offering me $300 million, Washington Nationals. I hate you.
I would say the data did not, like, I looked at it and I was like, Puig to me didn't have the numbers where I'd be looking for the home run upside in that spot. So that was pure revenge, I think. And we can now say without any sort of shadow of a doubt, revenge does exist in MLB and maybe not the other sports, but MLB for sure. Let's talk, actually, before we talk McHugh real fast, I want to say your point about Shane Bieber actually makes me feel a little bit better because Bieber is really his big risk is that he gives up a lot of hard contact, especially to lefties. And with guys like I guess Vogelbach's not in the lineup now, so that's a positive. You know what? Actually, that lineup got a lot safer for Bieber now that I'm looking at it. With no Vogelbach in there, I think Jay Bruce, as EMAC mentioned, it seems like he's due for some negative regression, just unless he's getting some of the good juice from somebody out there.
He has Robbie Cano's old locker, so maybe Canó left him something. I'm making that up, but it's some
good stuff behind.
Yeah, I'm making that up, but it is plausible. It is plausible.
But yeah, without Vogelbach out there, I think that really changes the equation quite a bit. So I'm feeling better about Bieber. I'm curious to see if that run total drops a little bit more because 3.9 does feel a little bit high. But similar thing yesterday, Trevor Bauer's line looked a little bit high to me as well, and he ended up having a nice day. I think it's just accounting for some risk for Seattle. McHugh, so I have some McHugh. He price wise, I think he works on a lot of the sites, DraftKings, Yahoo. He looks pretty solid. He's going to be pretty well owned, or at least a little bit more owned on Yahoo, I believe. But McHugh, to me, I'm worried about him. Like I feel like the numbers are going to kind of come back down to earth a little bit. And Oakland is a good enough team, not striking out a ton versus righties. I think all that stuff gives me some pause for McHugh that I don't necessarily have for Bieber. So what's your percentage on McHugh? And I guess what are the reasons you feel good about him?
I haven't hit a crunch yet, but I'm guessing he'll probably be 20 or 30. I will be in above the field. I'm okay with it. It is Oakland, which has power up and down their lineups. This is going to be kind of a tougher 3-game late slate because you've got the Biebs is solid, McHugh is solid, Maeda is solid. So now all of a sudden we're going to be going against Mike Leake. Be careful! All of a sudden he's trending up in strikeouts, at least for the last pretty much since just before the All-Star break through his last couple starts. He is not a strikeout pitcher, but he may have changed things a little bit. He's he knocked around in the NL Central forever. Not a lot of spacious ballparks there, so perhaps he is embracing the better ballpark here in T-Mobile Park. But he's someone I'm okay with my SP2. So now all of a sudden I'm looking at, do I really want to attack Tyler Mahle? Maybe, or do I want to go with Marco Estrada? Now that is a big no for Marco Estrada, and I wrote that up, so we'll talk about that in a second. But that leaves me with McHugh. Probably McHugh Bieber will be my aces, and then for that later slate, and I love to play all the slates, and then I'll move down to some Maeda and then a little bit of Mike Leake. I probably won't have much of, if any, of Estrada or Mahle, and that'll be where I make my stance. But on the full slate, I think McHugh's probably going to be about my 5th owned pitcher, and he's in that tier where he doesn't have as long of a track record of safety, if we want to include safety with José Quintana, but it is, Quintana's pitching today, right?
Yep.
Sorry, there's so many Lopez's on the slate. I keep getting.
There are in fact 3
And then
Lopez's.
Carlos Zambrano's back, so all of a sudden I have all these old Cubs pitchers in my mind, and Quintana used to pitch for the Cubs, and it's like, oh, Zambrano's back in the, I don't know, some sort of dogs. They're an independent league. Gonna try for a comeback there. Anyway, neither here nor there. But we know what we're getting in José Quintana. I'm guessing that his increase in strikeouts this season is probably just a little bit of noise. It's nice to see, but I don't know that we can count on it a lot. And I had asked Laffy about that when we did the pod last night, and he hadn't seen anything majorly different, but he had majorly different in the pitching, the movement, etc. But he had taken note of it as well, and we just said, maybe it's one of those games. But he's got that nice matchup against Miami in Marlins Park, so that gives him the nod. But the direct pivot from him is going to be Collin McHugh, and people aren't as fond of McHugh, but he's a good pitcher. He of course is with Houston, and they get the most, it seems, out of their pitcher. They help them get to that next level, and just for those reasons, as well as, I wanted to check the temperature here in Houston. So it's 61 in Houston. There's a little bit of a wind blowing out to right field, but there's almost always a little bit of wind.
Isn't it in Oakland?
It's in Oakland. Sorry, what did I say? Oh, I just wanted to see what
Houston. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I wanted to see what the temperature was.
The weather for the wrong place.
Houston does have an enclosed stadium.
Houston's beautiful today, so that's not. Colin McHugh's going to feel really good. He's not going to be seasonally affected in any way.
Yes. So, but I just wanted to double check that and make sure that it wasn't warmer than expected. So that's a decent pitching environment. Now, yeah, is it a little scary with those guys? Sure, but there's enough strikeouts to help offset their potential fly balls. If this was 80 degrees, I'd have Quintana much higher than I would McHugh, but right now I've got him kind of about the same.
Okay, yeah, that seems fair to me. Also, a lineup change just came through for the Orioles in case for some reason you're playing Orioles. I don't know. I guess yeah, you could do that. Going against Glasnow, sure. But yeah, just I didn't know that there was a change due, so I'm glad to have seen that. Yeah, McHugh, I think, look, I support him as well. The numbers just seem too good to be true for me and seem like they're due for some regression to the mean a little bit there. Like strikeout rate, he's, well, let me pull it up. I'm just updating my lineups. All right. McHugh's strikeout rate right now is so he's striking out 11.7 guys per 9, which would be super duper elite. I mean, would be amongst the highest on the slate. I don't think that can hold up for at least a longer period of time. So that's sort of where my concern comes. And, again, with Oakland mostly not striking out as well, just a 19.5% rate on the year versus righties. Not a lot there for McHugh to get, at least in theory. I think that's where it gives me some pause. And I would rather go to Bieber. I think Quintana, I actually think I have more McHugh than Quintana right now. And I don't know about that. I think you look at Quintana's numbers. So he's striking out a ton of guys right now. He's striking out 14.1 per 9 to start the year. But he still has a 1.7 whip and a 10.9 hits per 9. So he's still giving up a lot there. The swinging strike rate's been up, but it feels like it's hard to make sense of Quintana. I think I'm with the field on him, but it feels like a bad play for some reason that I'm not really aware of. And I think the ownership kind of backs it out as well with Quintana.
No, and I'm fine with that. Again, it's just there's so much variance in all of this. I'm now convincing myself that there is really not that much safety these days. Even if you're looking to a Justin Verlander, etc., you're just looking at guys that have a much better chance of not getting an implosion, as opposed to guys that you have, that you can start to believe in and count on. And that goes for Glasnow tonight, and that goes for Steven Strasburg as well.
Yep, I think that's fair. People in the chat who I just lost it. People talking about the Texas stack, and I guess let's just talk about it because it is going to be the highest total on today's slate. We talked about it a little bit in passing, but Jamie Barria going to start. He doesn't seem like he's fully stretched out. He's only thrown 1-2 inning sessions so far this year, so it seems like there may be a bullpen day for the Angels, and bullpen for the Angels has been pretty decent to start the year. The Rangers totals come down a little bit throughout the day. They're still the highest at 5.3 implied runs, but I think it was at 5.6 to start the day. I do have a good amount of Rangers. I think Chu looks particularly good to me, and it's hard to argue with Joey Gallo. And I do have some stacks in the top 5, though Andrus to me on DraftKings feels pretty overpriced. I'm a little bit less inclined for the Angels side. We talked a little bit about Mike Minor, but EMAC in this game, what are you going to here? Because a lot of people are going to be chasing that big scoring output day yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just, I know that, let's see, Jaime Barria was down there in the minors. So he did get one start thus far in the PCL. He went. Where is the game logs? He went 1 start, 5 innings, 5 1/3 innings pitched. He threw 85 pitches. He was a starter last year. He bounced between like a number 3, 4, 5 guy. He was down there. They moved him up, and I didn't see the reason why, but I know that they wanted to push. So Tyler Skaggs went on the DL, and they're tweaking their rotation, and they wanted to give Harvey one more day. That would be Matt Harvey. So they pushed him back, pulled Berea up from Salt Lake City. As we kind of hit at the top, he has dramatic splits where he is not great against righties. There's not a ton of righties that you really want to go rolling here to on Texas. Now, I still think Texas is going to be in one of the better situations. They are carrying one of the higher implied run totals there. And their lefties, they're all just fine against righties. So that doesn't mean that they're going to feel uncomfortable just because the pitcher is better against the opposite handedness of what they are. It's just, it's over the long term. If they were going to play each other 100 times, it might come out in the wash a little bit. That doesn't mean what it's going to be for today. So I would say we'll see him go about 5 innings would be my guess. I'd be surprised if he really went more than that, just because tougher lineup here at 75 degrees today at first pitch. And even though you have a dramatic wind coming in at about 12 to 15 miles an hour here from right field in Texas, it sort of is neutralized there. They used to have a reverse when the wind was coming in. It actually created a jet stream because it was coming off some plexiglass, spectator protection, and then up against a wall where their media center was, and the if you're going to eat at the buffet and all of the rich people seats, kind of in that area. They tweaked that a couple years ago so that the reverse jet stream is no longer in play. I just want to call that out because sometimes people remember that, because it was, who would have thought the wind blowing in makes it better, because it kind of boomeranged out to the opposite field there. And if you could launch your ball up there, it would just carry it. It would be a true Texas leaguer, shall we say. But this is one of those where I like it. I'm not going to I'm not going to try to overthink this. The lefties are in a decent spot. I'm fine with it. Gallo's amazing. Cabrera is absolutely fantastic. I'm surprised that he changes teams as often as he does. But as Rubel has just been, solid throughout his career. He's a switch hitter. I think Mazzara and Chu are absolutely fine. It's kind of sad that Odor is on the DL, so that weakens their lineup just a little bit. You've got Logan Forsythe, who I really hate taking against righties here. And that's the other thing to remember. Just because a pitcher is worse against righties, it doesn't mean the righties that are better against lefties are all of a sudden going to be better than him. I can't say that enough. So I'm still good with Texas. They'll probably be, I would say, probably my 4th favorite stack here, but they're all going to be relatively equal in my lineup building. On the other side here, I think Mike Minor is a fine pitcher, and Adam and Laffy both called this out, and I think Josh may have as well on the earlier show today. He's one of those guys where he's not as bad as everybody thinks, and
right.
he gets his ass kicked like 5 times a year, but the rest of the time he's okay. Well, when you're stacking and going all in against somebody, you want one of those 5 games. And when that doesn't happen, in the other 20 starts he makes, you get a little annoyed. So I'm not chasing. I'm not happy to play Minor. I don't really worry about him if he comes in as an SP2 based on his price and just the variance there, because this, the Angels lineup, I mean, realistically, outside of, Trout, is anybody overly dangerous? I mean, they've got Pujols batting 4, Lucroy's batting 5, Bohr's not in against the lefty. It's the Angels lineup is not deep. I mean, does Andrelton Simmons, David Fletcher, Lucroy, Calhoun, Cozart, none of those guys are overly scary. But whether a few other things, if I could get us, let me phrase it. I think it's 50-50 that you get maybe 40% that you get a quality start out of Minor with a handful of strikeouts. And that's fair for his price point. I think there's, a 25% chance that he gives up at least 1 run per inning that he's in there. That's what we're hoping for. But are they going to be home runs? Because if you have, a lot of singles, a lot of walks, no real extra base hits, no home runs, your offensive stacked points don't add up as quickly as we would hope from that standpoint. So there we go.
Yeah, I think obviously Trout is the most appealing guy there. And ownership-wise, he is going to be the guy with the most ownership, a little bit under 20% projected on DraftKings, and some more on Yahoo. His pricing is actually pretty ridiculous on Yahoo. But like going to David Fletcher, not the most exciting, as you mentioned. Simmons, not the most exciting. I could see going to Pujols, hoping he gets a home run. He's still pretty cheap because, he just hasn't been that good for literal years now. But overall, the Angels versus left-handed pitching has been really bad to start the year. A 190 or 170 batting average to start the year versus lefties. So not good. And Mike Minor, like you mentioned, just good enough. And I think, the deeper dive guys said something similar. Like a lot of people always think, like, can't wait to stack against Mike Minor. And then you end up and you're like, oh, it was a okay day, I guess. But
yeah,
really
it's like Wade Miley. It's like Andrew Kashner. It's like Martin Perez. I mean, those are guys that have gone in the last 4 days. Mike Leake. Yeah, they're not the best, but that doesn't mean you're going to get Coors Field pinball scoring when you go against them. Now, talk to me in this matchup when these two teams are facing each other again in July and it's 102 degrees at first pitch. Different answer here. Completely different answer. Stay away from the pitchers. Go for the hitters. But today, it's not. It's not anything that's concerning.
Yep, and we did just get a Dodgers lineup in. Cody Bellinger not in the lineup. Okay. Alex Verdugo in. David Freese, I feel like wasn't in the initial lineup that I had at least, but he may have been. I may have just missed it. And Rocky Gale in at catcher, very cheap. But the lefties here really the ones I'd want to go to for the Dodgers. But having no Cody Bellinger out there kind of hurts. I was willing to pay his price today because I think the matchup with Male is just too good to avoid. But
yeah, he got hit on the knee in the second inning with the pitch last night. Stuck around till the fourth. Negative for X-rays. And it so shocks me how often these guys get X-rayed literally for everything. But he's day to day. So we'll have to see. I mean, could it be a deep knee bruise? Maybe. Could it be, a tweak a patella or something like that because of where it hit? Maybe. We don't know that stuff yet, but I suspect we'll find out. If he plays tomorrow, good. All systems go. If he doesn't play tomorrow, I think a DL stint could be incoming for him just because they're deep enough that they can let him get healthy. So just keep an eye on that. I wasn't planning on having him start, but I saw almost every projected lineup did have him in because it would be an absolutely great matchup for him going against Tyler Mahle. But
yeah, the 1, 2, 3 there still strong there. Jock Peterson, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, a group there that I like quite a bit. And Verdugo now, going to be a cheaper option than it would have been otherwise. So
I think he popped a home run the other day.
Yeah, he's had some upside. He's on the year. He's got a 7% home run rate, which is not bad. And even going back to last year, an ISO of 165 versus a righty. So Verdugo, not a bad play, and could have some pop. Really, anybody could have some pop versus Tyler Mahle, who's just awful. I think, especially versus lefties. But I think Mahle is going to get rocked tonight either way.
Mahle will have his moments when he's going against a heavy righty team, which was great for him last year when the Brewers had a bunch of their lefties hurt and they were sort of their baseline was more righty than not. Same thing against the Cardinals. So there were some spots where you could look to him, even in Citizens Bank, even in Great American Ballpark there in Cincinnati. But the Dodgers are a tough lineup no matter what. Late slate only, but as I mentioned, of the 6 late slate guys, he's number 5 for me behind or ahead of only Marco Estrada. So even then, not really going to see much of him in my lineups.
Let's see what other games. Okay, so one guy I have a lot of today who I feel like I should mention, even though I don't know that you'll agree, but I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. So Tyler Flowers, I think catcher is particularly terrible today, and even in the stacks I like too, there really aren't a lot of catchers who I really enamored with in any way. So Tyler Flowers, my preferred catcher, 3,400 on DK. Going to be under 10% owned, actually going to be under 5% owned, it looks like. I think it's a good spot for him versus Robbie Ray. I think you could take a couple different one-offs here. But Tyler Flowers splits versus lefty is pretty strong, dating back to last year. Only 94 at-bats, but enough of a sample size. 239 isolated power, getting on base 500, batting average of 338. Also been hitting well to start the year. So Flowers is my catcher who I'm going to in a lot of spots, whether stacked or not stacked. What are you doing with these Braves? And I guess do you share my Tyler Flowers enthusiasm?
I think he's absolutely fine, particularly at that. Finally, they're relaxing some of the catcher pricing here on DK, and 3,400's outstanding. As you mentioned, not a ton of sample size, but he has been, track record of being better against lefties. So that's something that we like to see. So I'm totally fine with him. I think Johan Camargo is intriguing there, batting 5th. today, he gets that boost up from, because he usually bats 6th, 7th, or 8th, depending on what's going on. But you get him at third base or outfield at 3,600. I think that's nice. Robbie Ray's good pitcher, but I don't like him against this lineup. He's one of the guys that I'll just set it at 5 or 10%, and I won't come in any more than whatever the field is at. And I'm just uploading that stuff so I can run some crunches now. That doesn't mean I totally want to target him, but there are some phenomenal hitters on the Braves. It's 75 degrees. Not much humidity there in Atlanta, which we'll get to the point where in about 3 weeks, they are perpetually going to be not orange, what's the letter? Pink, shall we say, I guess. They will be a potential roving pop-up shower nightmare, but they'll also be in the 80 degrees and 80% humidity, which really starts to get the ball popping off the bats. So we're going to be wanting to, dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. For those of you that ever saw the first Batman with Michael Keaton, that was my Batman.
It's one of my favorites as a little kid, but I guess actually probably not the best to watch as a little kid, given that there's a man bathing in acid who goes criminally insane. But yeah, that's how you learn. That's how you grow and get older.
Prince, Kim Basinger, like that movie had everything. Come on,
they did. No, I agree. But in hindsight, I feel like you want to support your children not knowing much about the dangers of falling into a vat of acid and turning into a clown. I think that's just.
Oh, but I think that teaches you to not play around vats of acid.
That's true.
Very special
I episode. Never known otherwise. I guess let's do home run picks in a second. But while we're on this game, might as well talk real fast. Max Fried going against Arizona. I don't hate him. He's not missing bats as much as you would like, but doing a good job limiting damage. He has good stuff. The curveball, the deeper dive guys talk more at length about the various pitch types, but they've talked about him and his curveball and how that's improved greatly to start the year. So I think Max Fried's in a pretty good spot here. Diamondbacks cooling off after a hot start to the year. So I don't hate Fried on the other side, especially at his DraftKings price and under 5% ownership. Any Fried for you today, Mac?
We'll see. I've got everything loaded, so I'm going to hit the crunch here on 150 and see what pops up for me. So I'll have that answer probably after we do picks, because I'm going to have to tweak my pitcher percentage.
So, of course, it is the halfway point. We do give our home run picks here, and hit that like button as well, because the home run picks get stronger with the more likes we have. For some reason, we got barraged coming in by some downvotes before we even started the show, because that's the.
Hey, and we started on time, by the way.
Like,
promptly. Come on.
There have been some haters recently who have found the channel for whatever reason. Who knows why, but they're there. But hit that like button, balance out the negativity in the world with positivity. That's all we can do. But EMAC, as I mentioned before, EMAC on a hot streak, 3 out of 5 correct home run picks on the year. I am 3 out of 10. So EMAC on a much better clip right now. And we're both doing much better than both Josh and Jake. Josh 1 for 8, Jake 0 for 9 to start the year. Tough Chris Davis-like start for our baseball savant, Jake Hari. But EMAC, give me your pick. It's as good as gold. EMAC going to bring you guys to all the pay windows today with this home run pick. Let's go.
All right, Juan Soto going against Derek Rodriguez.
I actually like that pick. Rodriguez does limit home runs enough where I didn't get to a ton of national stacks today. But Soto is always a strong play, and I think going against Rodriguez, that's a sneaky one, which I'll be mad if that goes off like the second we get off the air. I'm going to put my virtual money where my actual money is, I guess, and I'll go with Tyler Flowers. I think it's just Robbie Ray is a guy who will give up a bomb here and there, and I have the most Flowers of anybody on the slate right now because I just buy into him at catcher. So Tyler Flowers, step on up.
Yeah, my favorite is someone was, because these are getting tweeted out, so people have been, at least on the ones where I've been on, and they're like, oh, chalky picks and stuff like that. It's like, really? Even if you pick the home run leader every single day, you're gonna be right 35 days, because he's gonna have some multiple home run games. So 35 out of 150 games, that's not chalky. I'm sorry, it's not. The best hitters have 4% chance, 5% chance of hitting a home run in any given at bat. So
we had this debate before where like Josh was like, oh, I bet you'll pick like Giancarlo Stanton or something, or like, and I just don't find that to be that offensive overall, because even on the best days, like you mentioned, I mean, he'll be hitting one out of every 4 days if he's lucky, and even that might be pushing it. It's still a very difficult thing to do, but I think it's cheap if you pick the same guy over and over again, and it's like a guy who has a ton of power, but there's an artfulness
to big slate like this, and come on, try to stay out of Coors or, Texas when it's 110 degrees, unless you're picking like the number 7 hitter or something like that.
Right. The gentleman's game. That's what we try to aspire to here.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. EMAC, what else are we getting? I guess, well, are you going to do your crunches now? Because I think if we want to do that,
I
tell me
am, but I just realized I did not put randomness in. So even though we were talking that whole time, it was going very slow.
So, before we jump into your crunches, then I do have one more stack I want to hit on, and then we'll get what EMAC's findings are so far from his data and his crunching. The Twins stacked me versus Aaron Sanchez, I like quite a bit. 5-point run total expected for them here. Some good lefties up top, or at least switch hitters and lefties up top with Kepler, Polanco, and Rosario. Aaron Sanchez, much worse versus lefties overall. Not giving up a ton of home run power, but I actually think that may benefit overall here, where you might get some more guys on base before somebody knocks it in. So I'm intrigued by this twin stack. And then going against Sanchez is one of my preferred under the radar approaches, under 10% ownership pretty much for everybody across the board on DraftKings. What do you think about the Twins here today going against Sanchez, Emac?
Let me call up his specific numbers here. Un momento, please.
Sure.
Let's go. I should have had this one up, but I did not because I was getting.
You should always have the Twins top of mind.
I was doing my NHL lineups, and I had to do the 6:30 game, 6:35 teams, which just locked, and I did the turbo slate that starts at 7. So I'm kind of waiting around. I've already got my tiers picks in for MLB, so I like to play all these slates. So let me get here. So here's my one sort of cautionary tale. So Sanchez is one of those guys that generally doesn't get destroyed. Now, and part of this is because he doesn't allow a ton of home runs. He has very good fly ball rate at 32%. So let's say that's going across his last 500 batters and change. This is from the beginning of last season through what we have this year. He's got a 5.2 xFIP. Okay, that's not good. But when you start to look and see that he has a walk rate of 12%, also not good. It means there's a lot of base runners. He doesn't help himself out with a just shy of a 19% strikeout rate, but the nearly 50% ground ball rate does. That means he can get some double plays. And so for him, when he's not, as long as the home runs don't happen when somebody's on base, he's not going to overly get destroyed. So a lot of this comes down to sequencing. There's been some intriguing studies out there, and this is where they get those, I forget what it's called, the Pythagorean run formula or something like that, where they say, based upon what you did, if this had happened in a more normal distribution, here would be your wins and losses, and same thing for your opponents, and yada, 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 all that. So much of it, getting unlucky is, well, if you give up a home run and there's 2 guys on, yeah, that sucks. If you give up a home run and there's 1 guy on, is that any different than, 2 guys getting back-to-back doubles? No, not really. So, it's one of those things where I don't see him getting destroyed as much. Now, this is Minnesota. They've turned over their lineup quite a bit. We've got some new guys. I'm assuming Miguel Sano is hurt or out for significant periods of time since we haven't seen him yet. But they don't have Dozier anymore. They traded away. Not Rosario, the other Eduardo Escobar, and a couple other guys, but they brought in, he's not in the lineup today, but they brought in Nelson Cruz, etc. So they're kind of status quo for being the Twins, but I like Kepler. I don't mind him as a one-off at all, and he's leading off, and he's 4,200 on DK. So if you're hand building lineups, that's a guy I'm drawn to. Rosario feels a tick more expensive than expected, but then we've got batting cleanup. The amazing Swiss Army knife, Willens Astudillo, who is a catcher, is a third baseman, play pretty much anywhere in the infield. I don't remember if he's had a turn in the outfield or not, but he does not strike out. He also does not walk.
By the way, when you say that, you're literally correct. He has not struck out once in the last year versus a right-handed pitcher.
Yeah, like his strikeout and walk rates are like 10% or less. I think his strikeout rate's like, I'm going off the top of my head, maybe 5 to 7%, and his walk rate is about the same. It's like every ball he hits is in play. Now, he's not a home run hitter, but somebody's on base, he can make something happen. We know there's going to be some ground balls, get a little ground ball with eyes, as Crash Davis said, a gork, all those fun little things he said in Bull Durham. But he's a guy that's intriguing at batting cleanup there, but I still don't think that this is it wouldn't shock me if Sorry, why did my thing just? Oh, because everything just shifted because the other game went off. So I had some things disappear here. So going against Sanchez, would it shock you if the Twins only end up with 3 or 4 runs against him?
No. Yeah, because I mean, the lack of home runs given up by Sanchez is always a concern, and yeah, no, and righties too. Also, he does do a decent job with. So yeah, I agree. I think your points are well heard there.
What if some untimely hits happen? Because he will have some base runners. Wouldn't 7 earned runs in 5 innings with 1 home run, 2 doubles, and then some singles and walks? Okay, that's in play as well. Is that enough to be a game-winning stack? I don't know, but the way the Twins are priced, they're a nice contrarian or secondary stack, and the differentiation for them, I think you're absolutely going down the right trail here, Chris, on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Polanco in particular, to me, he's a guy I have a good amount as a one-off. He does have some pop, not a ton of pop versus righties, but I think he's in a good spot, a good contact hitter. He's also just been hitting well to start the year with a 240 WRC plus over the last 2 weeks. So I like Polanco as a shortstop play at a reasonable price. And yeah, I think your point's right. I think I may have a little too much Twins overall, but I think price-wise, they make a lot of stuff work if you are trying to get some of the higher price pitchers. So I like those guys. And I think the point about Astudillo as well, also pretty good, that he may not get the same looks because, again, he's a righty and Sanchez's weakness is versus lefties. But Astudillo, dual position eligibility and 2 weird positions to share as well. And just not striking out, going to give you a chance to make something happen. How about the other side? So Kyle Gibson, the deeper dive guys had basically my exact thoughts. I think that he looks interesting in this spot, but he's pretty terrible overall. And it worries me that I'm going to have some of him. But I do have some of him. And it won't surprise me if he gets caught up. I think Chip My Money had said that wouldn't surprise me if he had a 20 pitch first out versus Eric Sogard. I think that seems in play for knowing what we know of Kyle Gibson. I have some, though. I'm riding with it. What about you and Kyle Gibson?
All right, my crunch just went. He was the guy I landed on near the field. So now what I'm going to do my next time through, I'm going to tweak. I'm running. So I do 2 things. I run 2/3 of my lineups are 4-4 stacks, and then 1/3 of my lineups end up being 5-3 stacks, unless I pull some out to do weird things or game stacks or whatever. But when I'm on air, I've got to keep it consolidated. But he's one of the guys where I just said, you know what, I'm going with the field on him. My stacks I'm going to change because right now I've got 5 teams that are coming in at 20%. Because I said run the 2-4-4 stacks, put it 10% exposure. Now I'm going to tweak who I want to go higher or lower on, because I'm going to want more Houston. I'm going to want more Tampa Bay, and I'm not getting they're at my 20%, so I'm going to turn those into 30% stacks, and then I'm going to drop down some of my other ones. So that's where I am with hitters. When I come across here and look at pitchers, and of course, when you make that change on Fantasy Cruncher, sometimes it's a little bit slow. I've got looking at my overall percentages. I've got and this will answer your broader question, but we still have 20 minutes here. But Strasburg, I've got him at 38%. My cap was 40. He's 34% in the field. I'm going that route because it's the San Francisco Giants. If it was 20 other teams, I'd be probably half the field on Strasburg just because it's Steven Strasburg and I'm scarred for life being a Nationals fan. Oh, and someone said I'm the Nats fan with all of my Nats caps. Well, I've got, I don't know where all of them are. I got Mariners here. I got another Nats cap here. Those are my 2 teams. So you get to my age, you literally have everything you need. So my wife usually gets me 1 new hat a year because my birthday's in the spring. So she picks some sort of color combination I don't already have, or sometimes
You're
it's
fresh to death out there.
A dry fit,
the bill. Keep it
a
flat.
dry fit mesh hat, or sometimes it's I don't have the other ones here. They're not close by, but so I've probably got another 7 or 8 hats you guys can't even see beside here and that aren't sitting by me on my desk. But that's how I ended up with that. Tyler Glasnow coming in at 37%. I think I'm going to pop that up just a little bit for him, but I'm solid because the field in our last ownership, which I got 10 minutes ago, was 16%, so I'm double the field. So that feels good. I just want to stay whatever double the field is on him. Quintana, I'm coming in at the field. I wish it was a little bit more. I've already given him the thumbs up to give him another 8%. Each time on Fantasy Cruncher, you click that thumbs up or thumbs down, it adds or subtracts 8% from your projections, which is perfect because 5% not really enough to put your thumb on the scale. As they say, 10% a little too much. That Dave, That Dave over at Fantasy Cruncher, he's a smart guy. He's doing that at 8%. So for those
the mama bear approach, the right way to go there.
Exactly. So for those of you not aware, that's where it is. I've got Gray at 20%. We have him at 1% thus far. I know he's a little bit dinged up. I'll probably back that off right now. I'm going to put him at 15%, but I love the matchup for him going against San Diego. He's not in Coors Field. Gibson, I'm coming in at 15%, which was my cap. We have him at 0.2. Is that... let me see if we've got a new one, because that feels like I may be a little heavy, but I want at least 10% of him to sort of answer that question. I'm coming in at 10% as well with Sanchez, which I'm totally fine with. Those are my SP2s, and that's what's allowing me to get some of the better stacks. The thing you want to be careful on is if you're looking just at your pitchers and you're getting, I've got, like right now I've got a bunch of Strasburg Glass now. That means some of my stacks are not, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. It's 1, 7, 8, maybe third or sixth or whatever. So you're not getting the stacks you want. So you need to go back and look at that, because just because one side of your equation's looking great, you're suffering on the other. I can guarantee that. So when you're playing a lot of lineups, double check that stuff. But it looks like I'm coming in well over the field. But to me, 5 to 10% of any pitcher, if the field is essentially at nil for what we have, that's about where the field's, to me, that's about where it's going to be. I don't need to go heavily over on that, because there's a reason these players have popularity levels. People look at it, it's the projections, it's the pricing, it's the matchup. They're doing the heavy lifting for you. Now with the kind of the Alex Baker, the Osmo strategy, you want to come in higher or lower than what we think the field is at. And that's why our ownership projections are just phenomenal. And I really got into it using them for basketball, and I'm just doing it for the first time now in baseball, but it's been incredibly helpful for me to look and see where the field is going to be at pitchers now that I'm playing a lot more lineups. I'm playing all the slates. I'm trying to become the disciple of what Alex is doing with his stuff. And we have a whole bunch of free content where he talks about all of this. If you go up to, and I'll drop the link here in chat, but if you go up to Osmo, and on the upper left side of our website, there's a thing that says Learn DFS, and in parentheses it says free. And this is him talking about diversification of lineups. This is him talking about how he approaches the different sports, etc. And it's in consumable pieces, so you can look at that, figure out what he's doing. Yeah, we're not going to do what he's doing because he's the number one ranked gamer in the world, but we can have success applying his theories and strategies to what we're doing. And I'm doing that in the lower dollars here. I mean, I'm up. Someone was asking me, I was saying at the beginning, my numbers in hockey are just off the charts for the playoffs. Well, Jake does a really good job with projections, and I'm mucking around in the low dollar stuff where the apex predators aren't living. I'm not playing in these gigantic contests that, 100,000 to first for Alex last week. He also got seventh in that same contest for 1,500. I'm not playing those. That's silly. So I love the leagues. I love any contest, 500 people or less. And that's where I really like. If you want to play on FanDuel, I love their 3-entry max 100 bands. You want to play on Yahoo, they have all sorts of single entry $1, $2, and $5 contests that usually have between 80 and 200 people, depending on when you get in them. Those are the ones you should play. Get in multiple of them and then build your multiple lineups in those, and you get a much better payout structure. So, sorry, I went on there for a little while.
No. I mean, I'm used to these tangents. So
but I'm just saying, I'm playing about $200 a day in baseball, and I'm already up $1,100 on the season.
That's nice. No, look, I linked that contest selection thing that Osmo wrote earlier in the chat, in part because that's one thing which I feel like addressed with that 74-year-old. Hopefully, that a real 74-year-old Marine was asking about. But yeah, like contest selection, very important, and following those basic things. Like a lot of people, like you can build good lineups, but ultimately what's going to come down to is playing the right tournaments every night, making it sustainable so you're not spending too much of your bankroll, you're not burning through money. So everything that Emac mentioned, go check it out on Osmo.com. Go to the Learn DFS tab and click through things, because that is a big step a lot of people miss. And honestly, same thing for me. I would chase the big tournaments a lot more, and I still do that for bits and pieces, but majority of my bankroll is going to sustainable things like cash and max 20 entry type tournaments. And I think that's what works.
Yeah, and I will always put one lineup in the Millie Maker, whatever sport it is when it happens. I will always, in NASCAR, heavily variant. I will always put one or two in it used to be the $8, then it was the $9. Now it's the $11, and I'm expecting them by May, that's going to be the $12 contest. But I'll put one in there and then just try to make that my best lineup. But then I'll play a ton of everything else down in the lower stuff. So just from my perspective, it's more fun. For me, it's the puzzle. I don't like to redeposit. Generally, I withdraw 2 or 3 times a year. I usually end up depositing 1 or 2 times a year. Usually, as we get over to a crossover season, if I don't have enough, right now I'm playing. This weekend I played MMA, PGA, NHL, NBA, NASCAR, doing everything except tennis. Sorry, tennis, I missed you. But
really,
but sometimes you need a little more
tennis for no reason. Even
sometimes you need a little more funding in your account. But I don't run a bunch of transactions in and out all the time, so then I know where I'm at. So if I get up, a few $1,000s, pull it out. If I have a bad run or whatever, and I start dropping a little bit, well, maybe I got to throw a little bit in there. But I'm disciplined enough that I don't have to constantly be chasing stuff, and it gives me a good idea of where I'm at, because I always know what my baseline. I usually have like $3,000 in my DK account. Well, I'm up to 5,500 now. Probably time for a withdrawal. I usually don't let it go below 800 because, once you come around to NH or NFL and you got NASCAR and crossover weekend with either NBA or MLB, I'm playing $1,000 a day on those days. So, I need to have a certain amount on my account. But that's just perspective. And I've been doing this for a long time. I've reinvented what I've been doing multiple times. There are many ways to win daily fantasy sports. There are even more ways to lose. So try to find your lane and find what's successful for you. We have some guys in Slack. One guy, Dave, lived in the Quints over there on FanDuel NBA. Literally lived in them. And he was probably cashing 3, if not 4 days out of 7 per week. He was raking it in. I mean, I'm guessing, but he probably pulled down 20 or 30K by playing, $200 a day for the whole NBA season. That's pretty damn good. I'm sorry to say. I'll take that. He didn't have a splashy win, but he was withdrawing quite a bit, not having to redeposit, and that's the secret here.
Yep. So there you go. So hopefully that helps some people out there, and we'll talk more about the games. And obviously we'll take your questions as well. We did get a request. Actually, one guy who's been in these streams for a while, Noah Rosen, who I lovingly call our little Jewish weather nana, who loves knowing all the weather concerns in MLB and asks them with great dedication. Noah asking, what's the weather concerns today? I have none. EMAC, do you have any weather concerns at all? Everything looks green to me.
Nope, none. None I'm really overly targeting because they're great. A few on the West Coast where I'm saying, it's not the best offensive environment, but it's not like I don't want to play an offense there or I'm afraid to take a pitcher one way or the other. And even Texas today, it's reasonable. So that'll change. We're lucking out with no precipitation. We're going to have times where if West Coast teams are traveling to the East Coast, there's not as many enclosed stadiums, and we get a storm, that's more or less hitting from up the eastern seaboard. You're going to have Atlanta, Philly, Boston, New York, DC. They're all going to be affected and be like, what the hell? Or if we got something over in the Midwest and you've got Cleveland, Cincy, both Chicago teams, et cetera, you're like, I guess I'll play Milwaukee tonight because they have a covered stadium. You just got to be cognizant of where it is. And the West Coast, usually not an issue. And then we'll get is it going to hail or is it going to be 80 degrees in 48 hours in Denver? Throughout the summer. So there you go. Sure. It's very schizophrenic. Let's
talk about the Royals White Sox game because we didn't touch on that one a bunch, but the White Sox do have a 5-point run total projected for them by Vegas. The Royals looking a little bit less appealing with Alberto Mondesi out of the lineup, and generally that lineup got a little bit weaker. I mean, I would say overall got a little bit weaker without him. But they still have a 4.5 run total supporting them. So I have some stacks here because I think the White Sox are an interesting team to go back to after they were disappointing yesterday for the most part. And Jorge Lopez, not a guy who looks particularly great. He's okay swinging strike rate, okay chase rate to start the year. Still not big strikeout numbers, but also not a lot saying that he's giving up a ton in terms of walks or hits either. On the other side, Reynaldo López been terrible to start the year, though we have seen a couple similar spots. I think the Heath Fillmyer one yesterday didn't have a big day, but maybe just to do for some regression to the norm because you can't be this bad forever. On the year, Reynaldo López giving up 2.55 whip. In terms of hits per nine, he's giving up 14.9 hits per 9 innings, an xFIP of 8.2. Swinging strike rate of 7.6, chase rate of 20.4%. All of those are the lowest on today's slate. So Reynaldo López at minimum price seems like he may just be due to get back to normal. So I do have a little bit of him today in the hopes that KC, they got weaker perhaps without Mondesi in there and Lopez just due for something. And I have White Sox stacks, but not a ton of love for this game. EMAC, what do you think?
I think that's the appropriate thing. When Laffy and I talked today, last night on the Early Bird podcast, we were saying, yeah, don't play a pitcher named Lopez. Lineups have come out. We've softened a little bit on that, but they're SP2s at best. Reynaldo López was part of Lucas Giolito trade for Adam Eaton from Washington to the White Sox there. He has some talent. He has some strikeout stuff. He was he's been on the prospect list for a while, but he's just absolutely falling apart. And that's something that's been a little bit frustrating. Kansas City's striking out more than what we're expecting or what we've come to expect over the last 2 or 3 seasons. They're still kind of about league average, but they've turned over a ton of their lineup, and they have more power than they have in the past. But and again, they have 3 amazing base stealers, but that also brings a lot of strikeouts to their lineup. So still okay with Lopez a little bit. I've set him at 10%. I'm running my last crunch here of my 4-4s, and then I'll run my 5-4s because I realize that we're within 10 minutes here, and that's, I probably should focus on that for a moment, shall we say. But that's sort of where I am on him. And it's a big slate, so we're not seeing a massive concentration of ownership. And this is where you need to understand we talked a lot about this in Slack. So Tom and Alex and Jake and Josh and Adam, those guys are all doing a bunch of stuff in Fantasy Cruncher, but then they pull out and do all their analysis in Excel. They're looking at running a variety of crunches, then they're ranking their lineup. So that's how you can't really run a one crunch and have 5 3s and 4 4s and 3 2 1 stacks, 4 3 1 stacks, etc. You got to run those separately, bring it in, then they rank their lineups. So they all run double the lineups they're actually entered into for the entries, and then they figure out what they want. They also have set up their formula so they know what their ownership is across the board, and I know Josh for sure, and I suspect the other guys do as well, but I've heard him talk about it on the show, so I know specifically with him, he will look and see where people are on pitchers and let that influence where he's going with his hitters. If people aren't on a ton of certain pitchers, he's not going to overly load up on them. I'm 30% in on this guy. He's trying to play the variance game here, which is key when you're building a ton of lineups
and leverage.
This is math. This is math. Damn it, I was told there'd be no math, but this is math, guys. I'm sorry to say. But that's something you definitely want to keep into account as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fair. So, yeah, overall, I think this matchup, the White Sox, I think just interesting. It's a good run total supporting them. They have nobody owned over 7%, or actually, I guess Wellington Castillo is the highest at 8% overall because people just need a catcher. But yeah, I think the White Sox, an interesting team to go back to today, but I am more, I hate it. I really hate going to Reynaldo López, but you can't be this bad forever. So that's where I landed with Reynaldo López. We will take your questions now in the premium Slack. First and foremost, if you're not in the premium Slack, you're not a premium member of Awesemo.com, presumably, use that promo code Live Before Lock. We have a ton of rankings from Awesemo as well as projections, ownership projections as well, which are very important. They'll be available for the night slate too. There's a lot of content going on that we have there. Get an all sport package. You could also get all of our NBA playoff content. I have a column there today. We still have ownership projections and rankings there as well. All the sports EMAC is mentioned, which he's dabbling in right now. Those are also available. NHL, PGA, NASCAR, MMA, tennis. We do have tennis content. So check it out with the promo code Live Before Lock. We have Fast Eddie coming up also on the channel, I think, in mere moments. So he'll be going on the same time as us, but go check him out for more NBA playoff content as well for free here on YouTube. Let's see. Packs, people talking about the Yankees game. Nothing good question-wise. All right. Well, EMAC, here you're doing your crunches now. I don't want to interrupt that process for you. You're finishing your stuff, but what are you getting the most of so far, which is perhaps giving you some pause, or perhaps something that you want to lean in on more from what you're seeing?
I'm not getting enough Houston at the moment, but I'm getting where I want to be on Tampa Bay. I'm up to these are 4-4 crunches, so that means I'm running 2 of them on each lineup. So basically, cut it in half to see what my overall number is on each lineup for this. But I'm getting not enough Houston. So when I run my 5 3s, because we just have 5 minutes left, I'm probably going to go in and give the old thumbs up to a few of the Houston hitters that I want. The other thing you can do if you're kind of stuck in a situation like this, you can just pick a few players in late games. Now, that doesn't work as well in in MLB as it does in NBA, because you have a lot of games going off at the same time. So you're punting tonight quite a chunk There's like 6 games going off in the first 15 minutes here for baseball tonight. So you want to be careful in doing that. But, worst case scenario, and we've seen it a few times, maybe you just say, you know what, there's an error. I've got an upload error. I haven't hit upload. Sometimes you're copying and moving things around your crunch and you get the big red, you have duplicate lineups. Let's see if I have that. Nope, I'm good. When that happens, I just start picking everything from 8 o'clock over, put in one lineup, take a breath, have a moment for dinner, and come back and build my lineups because I'm not going with dead lineups. It may not have the player pool I want or I would have wanted from the beginning of the day, but I'm also not going to lose everything because I just, things went nuts on me and I couldn't get there. So that's just a little trick. Again, it works much, much better in basketball, but you can apply it to baseball.
I got a couple questions here in the premium Slack. Matt R asking, would you go Arenado or I presume Yandy Diaz? I can't think of another Diaz who would be at third base. For me, in terms of ownership, it would be Yandy Diaz. Let me look at Arenado real fast. Arenado's certainly due to get a little better soon. So for tournaments, it might be a decent move to go there. Yeah, Arenado under 5% ownership on DK. Certainly can mash lefties. Nick Margevicius has been looking good, but strikeout stuff not really there. And if he's going to allow contact, those guys can certainly get back on track. So I have more Diaz. I support Diaz, but Arenado is interesting, and he's going to be less owned than Diaz. What would you do there, Remac?
I would go with excuse me, I would go with Arenado just because he can literally hit it out of any park. And he is someone that I'm not concerned with in the matchups. Even in San Francisco, he's fine. And when he has the platoon advantage, he is one of the probably top 10 hitters I think everybody can agree with when it comes to having the platoon advantage. So I would probably go that route. Yandy Diaz, if that was the other guy, it's not a lead me, so I know he's not in the lineup tonight. But if it's, and I think we just got the.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Yandy. But yeah, so yeah. I think your take there is pretty right. I think if you're stacking Rays, I would want to have Yandy in there more. But yeah, they're going to be the same amount of ownership. So if you're doing a one-off, I think Arenado, for the reasons Emax said, would make sense. We got a question, another either or, Hearn or Dozier, if you're doing a KC stack for a DK GPP, which of those would be more appealing to you, Emac?
Hearn, I think he has better home run upside. Dozier did get one the other night, and I saw a fun little tweet from the Kansas City Royals saying something about Bull Dozier or something. But O'Hearn has the better raw power. That would be the route I was going if I was choosing between the two of them, regardless of whatever the ownership is.
Yeah, they're the exact same ownership on DK. Dozier hitting better to start the year, but O'Hearn overall better numbers versus righties. I'll go. Well, I guess I should make it easier on the guy. I'll go O'Hearn too. O'Hearn just a lot more power there. I would have gone contrarian just to go for the full ESPN mode and disagree with you for no reason. But I think that's O'Hearn's a fine play. How about for a DK GPP at pitcher, Maeda or Bieber? Who would you go with?
I'd lean towards Bieber a little bit, but I would go with whomever has the lower ownership. I think, going off the top of my head, I think Bieber's like 82, and I think Maeda's like 9. If Maeda does have less ownership, he's a fine pitcher. He's probably going to get into the 6th inning. He'll probably roll. Oh shit! I'm not going to make this crunch in time. He'll probably roll 85 to 90 pitches, and that's something I'm okay with.
I would go Bieber just because I do worry about Maeda getting the hook. I think the matchup a little better for Maeda, but Bieber I think is going to recover. I think they're willing to ride with him, and we talked about earlier some of the risks with him giving up hard contact. But as Emac mentioned, it's cold air out there in Seattle, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Nothing to worry about with old Shane Bieber. Let's see.
All right, running my last. Get it in there. Get another 68 lineups. Oh, I got it just in time.
There we go. Way to go, Emac. Way to be a pro. Getting both your things done at once. I'm proud of you. Okay, Sean V. Chris's Colorado lineup is horrible, and none of them have ever seen him. Okay, I think that's a fair take. Look, I've been stacking or going with every pitcher against Colorado lately, so I certainly can't hate that approach. But the splits for both Story and Arenado versus lefties going back to last year are too much to ignore. They both have an isolated power over 300 versus lefties. Both guys pretty terrible to start the year, but Margevicius not missing bats enough where I think I would worry about it. So I actually do kind of wish I forced a little bit more Story and Arenado. I guess I still could into my lineups because I think they're an interesting play versus Margevicius, who's probably due to come back down to earth a little bit more, I would think.
Yeah, so that's since we're at lock and that's a later game. Let's look at Margevicius here for a second. So decent amount of hype. He's going to be fine. I too am picking on the Rockies liberally. The last 2 seasons they have had the 20th worst, and 2 seasons ago the third worst. Pardon me, what would that be? 27th offense from a weighted runs created plus perspective, which neutralizes the Colorado ballpark factor. They're horrible outside of Colorado. Have they changed their lineup much since last year? No. Well, they don't have, Carlos Gonzalez, but, Story's healthy, but they've got Hampson in there, but these guys aren't really going to do something. I mean, tonight you've got Pat Valleca, Tapia, Mark Reynolds. The corpse of Mark Reynolds is batting fifth. These guys aren't overly scary. Now, if you look at Margevicius, you want to look at the full picture. If you look at his xFIP, it's 3.89. Wow, that's good. All right, well, he's faced 60 major league hitters. That's pretty small sample size. Oh my God, Chris, he's only allowing a 1.7 walk rate. Why is that? Well, because he's allowing an 81% contact rate. To your point, the ball's in play with him at all times. So could he melt down? Sure. Who was the... was it Lucchesi last night, or was that 2 nights ago?
Oh yeah, I think it was Lucchesi. Yeah, he was.
So
not great.
I went with him heavily. He wasn't great. Colorado got 5 runs, but did Colorado kick his ass? No, not really. He wasn't helpful, Lucchesi, but that's kind of where we are on Margevicius. Now, he doesn't have as much of a track record, so whatever the field was, I'm probably at 5 or 10%, if I even have any of him. I haven't looked at my second crunch here, but I set it low enough because I don't know enough about him that I want to get to him. Now, as I've mentioned, I love to play all the slates. So I'm playing that 3-game night slate because that's where you get into more game theory. I don't run as many hard 4-4 stacks. I may run a 4 stack and then just let other batters come in. I may run a 3-3. I'll focus on certain things where I say, okay, no Margevicius in these 15 lineups, and I want at least 3 Colorado hitters, and I'll use the little positive button there or the thumbs up to Goose, Story and Arenado and maybe Mark Reynolds because he could run into one, or maybe Hampson. But I don't expect to get a ton. But it's funner on those, or more fun on those late slates, or the smaller slates, because you can start to look at stuff like that. I haven't looked at the thing, but for the 6:35 slate, I said I'm not playing either pitcher from the Boston New York game. I'm going 100% on the other batters, or probably the other pitchers, and then I'm running 4-3 stacks because I wanted to get some one-offs, because it's only a 2-game slate. So if you're trying to run a 4-4 and you're spending on pitchers, all of a sudden you're going to look and be like, why the hell do I have a catcher who's batting 30% owned? That's not what you want to do. So you got to play around with that stuff a little bit. But I went to the extreme there because I'm like, name value of Paxton and Sale was high, but Sale's and we pointed this out on a bunch of the earlier stuff. His velocity is way down. That's concerning. They also had their oh no, the Rays. Blake Snell fractures his toe.
Oh yeah, he's on a 10 ADL, right?
Yeah, well, fractured 4th toe of his right foot when he got out of the shower and attempted to move to a large granite bathroom stand. Quote, it was really dumb, Snell told reporters. It's like this 3-piece set, and it's like, dude, really? Shoot. That's no fun. But I wanted to see the score of these early games, and then we can cruise on out of here because I got dinner coming up. All right. So no runs yet in the Boston New York game. Sale has 2 innings, 2 strikeouts, 22 pitches. Solid. The Yankees have a better lineup on the DL than they do that's starting, but they still have some impressive hitters with Judge, Torres, Voit, Frazier. Frazier would be like a number 7 hitter on pretty much every team now, out there. Right? Yeah, but on the other side, you got Paxton. He's got 4 Ks, but I don't want to tangle with the Red Sox, so we'll see what happens there. But sometimes you just got to make a stand and try to do something different. This is baseball. Weird crap happens. You have to be ready to go in and just lose, because there are other times you do that and you're going to win, and you're going to win handsomely. It's not like basketball, which we need to get out of the basketball mindset where everything is projectable, and we know more or less what floors are. And as long as our guys are getting minutes, they're probably at least going to get a rebound, or they're going to pass it to a teammate who makes a shot, or they're going to get a bunny, or whatever it is. So points are always going up. In baseball, if you go into the night games on this full slate, there's still 6 teams playing. If you think you're winning, all it takes is a Christian Yelich type performance, and you're not winning anymore. Or if you're losing and you have that Christian Yelich guy on your team, all of a sudden you're racing up the leaderboards. It's a very event-based sport, even more so than football. Home runs are seemingly harder than touchdowns because they're concentrated they're spread out amongst all 9 guys on the team. How can we forget when the pitchers start to hit them? I mean, Greinke had a 2 home run game this year. Really? Zach Greinke, 2 home runs in a game? Not what we're expecting. So weird stuff happens. Be ready for it. Keep your powder dry. Be smart. Pick your platitude. Play the same amount of money in the similar contest once you find what's good for you, and focus on that, because it's a long season and you want to stick around till the end, because baseball's a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of getting out of the basketball mindset, I have to go make NBA playoff lineups. So let's call it a wrap. Hit the like button on the way out. Use that promo code live before lock to get all the access to anything you want for half off your first month of any package. Be well with Fantasy Cruncher. It doesn't matter. They're all 50% off your first month with that promo code live before lock. So go check it out now. Go check out Eddie's stream if you're playing playoff NBA like I am. I'll be probably watching as well, so we can share that moment together. Emac, any parting words for anybody before we go do you eat, I go do lineups?
No, follow me on Twitter. I'm closing in on 10,000. So this is kind of fun. I think I'm about 50 away. So I'm very, very close. I'm not in the vaunted Chris Spags 5-digit territory yet. But hey, this is kind of fun. And I'm just retweeting our content. You may see me do my every 3 weeks angry thing towards some politician somewhere. But it's pretty low key. Outside of that, you're not going to get a lot of fluff from me on this stuff. It's mostly interesting things I've seen. And or just alerting people to our shows or content. So it's a relatively benign follow. So there you go.
So go follow EMAC DFS right now. Help them hit that 10K number. Go follow me too. I don't need it. I don't care, but it's 10K. What is that? What is this? 2015?
How many are you up to?
24,000, but I lose them because the people who follow me don't care about DFS. So I don't care. I'm like the Joker with this.
I'm slow and steady. And just for the record, in the majority of these purges, I've literally lost like 100 followers or less than. So it's mostly people that just want to have a good time here. And then you can see Seth Finhater troll me, and we can learn about the Fred Van Elite contest, which is there.
And more importantly, they can get your home run picks. That's what the people want.
That is key. We shall see. Let's go, Mr. Soto. With that, we're going to get on out of here, gamers. Good luck.